So, this guy took us on this long chase. He says that it's not because he has any warrants.
Something about success can attract the kind of danger nobody talks about. One moment you're celebrating a breakthrough, the next, a single night changes everything forever. In 2019, Detroit rapper T Grizzly lost someone who had been there from the very beginning. Someone who believed in him before the fame, before the money, before the world even knew his name. His manager, his biggest supporter and family member, Jobina Brown, was shot multiple times while sitting in a car waiting for him. What followed wasn't just grief, it was years of rumors, accusations, and unanswered questions that turned a tragic night into one of hip-hop's most controversial mysteries. To understand why this story still sparks so many questions years later, you first have to understand who Jobina Brown really was. Because the internet eventually turned her name into gossip, rumors, and conspiracy theories. But before any of that noise existed, she was simply the person who believed in T Grizzly when almost nobody else did. Back in 2016, T had just come home from prison. He had big dreams about making music, but dreams alone don't pay for studio time. So he started doing what many aspiring artists do. He went around asking family members for a small loan. Just a few $100s to buy a beat and record a song. But most people around him didn't take it seriously. To them, rap sounded like another unrealistic plan. Some told him to forget about it and go find a regular job. Others simply brushed him off. After all, Detroit was full of people chasing music careers that never went anywhere. Then he went to Jobina. Unlike everyone else, she listened. She didn't laugh at the idea. She didn't shut him down. Instead, she believed in him completely. And that belief changed everything. Jobina didn't just hand him some money and wish him luck. She invested in his vision. When T recorded the song that would eventually change his life, First Day Out, she paid for the music video. She even bought the outfit he wore in that video. That moment became the start of something much bigger. First Day Out exploded online. The video racked up millions of views, and suddenly the entire hip-hop world was paying attention to the Detroit rapper who had just come home from prison and immediately started trending. But behind that breakthrough was Jobina. She believed in the vision so strongly that she made a decision most people wouldn't make. She quit her job and became T Grizzly's full-time manager. From that point forward, her entire professional life revolved around helping his career grow. And it worked. As T's popularity grew, Jobina began establishing herself in Detroit's music industry as well. She wasn't just someone hanging around because of family ties. She was managing artists, building connections, and becoming a respected figure in the city's hip-hop scene. One of the artists she worked closely with was Sada Baby. For him, Jobina wasn't just a manager. She was someone he deeply cared about. He often referred to her affectionately, and when she passed away, the grief hit him so hard that he got her name tattooed on his face shortly afterward. That kind of reaction tells you a lot about the kind of person she must have been. People who knew Jobina described her as someone who looked out for the artists around her, not just professionally, but personally too. She helped them navigate contracts, opportunities, and the complicated world of the music industry. She was someone people trusted, which is exactly why what happened on the night of August 20th, 2019, shocked everyone. That evening started out like a normal day. T had just finished a studio session with a couple of collaborators and decided to stop by and check on an older cousin who lived on Detroit's east side. The group was riding together in a black Chrysler 300. Inside the car were T, Jobina, and their driver. When they arrived at the house on the 3600 block of 3 Mile Drive, T stepped out of the car to go inside. Before leaving, he asked Jobina if she wanted to come in with him, but she declined. She had a habit of not going inside other people's houses, so she decided to stay in the car and wait for him. That small decision would become one of the most tragic moments of the entire story. As T walked into the house, the driver also stepped out of the vehicle. For a brief moment, Jobina was sitting alone in the back seat. Then the gunshots started. Someone approached the car and opened the door on the side where T had been sitting just moments earlier. It quickly became clear that the shooter wasn't firing randomly. They were looking for someone. But instead of finding T, the bullets struck Jobina. She was hit multiple times on the left side of her body, including near her heart and arm. Despite the severity of the injuries, she didn't die immediately at the scene. Emergency responders rushed her to the hospital. While she was inside the ambulance, she managed to call T, but she couldn't form clear words. The injuries were too severe. Later that same night, doctors confirmed that Jobina Brown had died from multiple gunshot wounds. From the beginning, investigators believed the attack was targeted. Nothing had been stolen. There were no signs of a robbery, and the way the shooter approached the vehicle suggested they knew exactly who they were looking for. The only question was whether the shooter had been aiming for Jobina or for T. Grizzly himself. What happened next only made the situation even more complicated. From the very beginning, investigators believed the shooting wasn't random. Detroit police quickly pointed out something important. Nothing had been taken from the vehicle. No robbery, no struggle, no attempt to steal anything. Whoever walked up to that car didn't come looking for money or valuables. They came looking for a person. And according to T. Grizzly himself, he believed that person was him. After the tragedy, T spoke publicly about the situation and made it clear that he believed the shooter intended to kill him, not Jobina Brown. That belief added an even heavier layer of guilt to an already devastating loss. In his mind, she had been sitting in the wrong seat at the wrong time. Not long after her death, T released an emotional song titled Sadik, using Jobina's middle name as a tribute. In the lyrics, the pain was obvious. He talked about anger, revenge, and the overwhelming feeling of losing someone who had helped change his life. But his family stepped in and urged him not to go down that road. Instead of retaliation, they told him to let the police handle the investigation. Meanwhile, detectives were working the case, but progress was slow. Leads were scarce, and for nearly 2 years the investigation appeared to be going nowhere. A reward of $2,500 was even offered through Crime Stoppers for anyone who could provide information that led to an arrest. Still, nothing solid came in. Then in 2021, investigators finally announced a major development. Police identified a suspect named Jermaine Whedon, a Chicago man in his mid-20s, who allegedly had connections to street circles known as Woo 600. In October 2021, he was officially charged with first-degree premeditated murder, along with several gun-related charges. According to prosecutors, the case against Whedon was built on 3 major pieces of evidence. The first was cell phone data. Investigators claimed Whedon's phone was pinging near the exact block where the shooting happened for nearly 2 hours before the attack took place. That meant someone using that phone had been sitting near the scene long before the gunfire started. The second piece of evidence involved a stolen getaway vehicle. Witnesses reported seeing a Nissan Versa leaving the area after the shooting. Police later connected that same vehicle back to Whedon, placing him even closer to the crime. But the third piece of evidence was the most serious. When Chicago police arrested Whedon on an unrelated case just 2 months after the murder, they reportedly found him carrying a Glock 23 handgun. When that gun was tested through a national ballistics database, investigators said it matched the shell casings recovered from the scene where Jobina was killed. In other words, prosecutors believed the very weapon used in the murder was later found in his possession. However, the story didn't get simpler from there. The situation became even more controversial when people realized that Whedon wasn't completely disconnected from T. Grizzly's world. Through various industry relationships and overlapping circles in Chicago's music scene, there were indirect connections between the suspect and people who had worked with T. Once that detail surfaced, social media exploded with speculation. Rumors spread everywhere. Some people began claiming T knew more than he was saying. Others went even further, accusing him of being involved in the situation himself, despite there being no official charges against him. Years later, when the case finally went to trial in 2025, those rumors only grew louder. During the proceedings, T. Grizzly was called to testify. But when prosecutors began asking him about past lyrics, tattoos, and previous legal issues, he chose to invoke his Fifth Amendment right and refused to answer certain questions. Legally, that's a protection many lawyers advise their clients to use during sensitive trials. But online, many people interpreted it as something else entirely. The defense team also attempted to introduce doubt by suggesting alternate theories about what happened, trying to shift suspicion and weaken the prosecution's case. After days of testimony and arguments, the jury faced a difficult decision, and in the end, they couldn't reach one. The trial ended in a hung jury, meaning the jurors were unable to unanimously agree on whether Whedon was guilty or not. Because of that, no conviction was reached, and the case remained unresolved. As of late 2025, no new trial date had been set, which means that years after the gunshots rang out on that Detroit street, the family of Jobina Brown is still waiting for clear justice. The questions that began that night still haven't completely gone away. Was the attack truly meant for T. Grizzly? Did investigators catch the right suspect? Or is there still more to the story that hasn't come out yet? One thing is certain, Jobina Brown was someone who believed in a dream when almost nobody else did, and without her support, the career of T. Grizzly might have looked very different. Now, I want to hear what you think about this case. Do you believe the shooter was really targeting T. Grizzly that night? Or do you think there's more to the story that people still don't know? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story interesting, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who follows hip-hop news, and subscribe for more deep dives into stories the internet can't stop talking about.